Now that was God.
Welcome to the YouTube channel, Now That Was God, where stories of inspiration and hope will be shared with you. Stories that you share with us that glorify God.
We welcome and appreciate your God story, and would love to share with others. Send it to nowthatwasgod@gmail.com. Join us in glorifying God for His amazing love.
God be the glory, great things He has done. So loved He the world that He gave us His Son.
Our first story is from Regina, in Texas.
My name is Regina. I can remember some of my younger days being happy, at home with Mama and Daddy, my brother and my sister. I was Daddy's little girl. My mom and dad divorced when I was young, and that hurt not to have a father, like most people. Once my dad left, my life of misery began. My mom worked second shift, and my auntie watched us, but she had a boyfriend and paid us no attention. That's when my older cousin started coming by, pretending to come to see my brother, but began abusing me. I was 10 years old. That went on for years until my mom went on first shift. I held everything in. My life was numb. I eventually became an addict of sex. I craved it. It was like a disease. I started looking for love in all the wrong places, including an abusive relationship. At 17, I had my first child, thinking he would fill the void in my life. My baby, my pride and joy, but I guess that wasn't enough. I got introduced to drugs at an early age. I was able to shake loose of the weed, the crack, and the coke, but once I smoked it in a glass pipe, I became messed up. I spent whatever chance and whatever money I had on it. I tried to commit suicide 3 times, but God wasn't ready for me yet. I ended up in prison in 2013 for robbery and burglary, and a lady I cared for deeply died because of my addiction. When I first got here, I looked up at the barbed wire and saw a crown of thorns. Coming to prison saved me. God gave me strength to find Him in myself, and showed me how to help others. My world has been changed all because of the Lord. Now, I seek Him and He leads my path. My sentence is now over, and my new life has begun. 2 Corinthians 4:7-9 helped get me through.
Now that was God.
But we have this treasure in jars of clay, to show that this all-surpassing power is from God, and not from us. We are hard-pressed on every side, but not crushed, perplexed, but not in despair, persecuted, but not abandoned, struck down, but not destroyed. 2 Corinthians 4:7-9. Our next story is from Mirella, in Texas.
Me, being alive and walking, of course, it had to be God. Let me start at the beginning. In July of 2018, I suffered a subarachnoid stroke. Basically, during an angiogram, a piece of plaque from my heart embedded in my brain. If that wasn't bad enough, I was told I had to have open heart surgery or die. Doing the test to open me up, they found the stroke. I spent a month in the hospital with everything on hold, while they were trying to shrink the plaque so they could operate. I was left with ataxia on the left side. Basically, my arm, hand, and leg would jump on their own. I had to learn to walk with a walker. While waiting for my surgery and growing weaker each day, I had another setback. My anemia was out of whack, and my blood levels were too low to operate. Finally, a few days later, I arrived at the hospital, and was prepped for my heart surgery. The surgery went well. They replaced 3 of my arteries into my heart. The only complication was loss of about a pint of blood, while in the ICU. A week after my surgery, I ended up with an abscess of MRSA in my chest cavity. MRSA is the deadliest infection a person can get. It's resistant to antibiotics. It kills 11,000 people a year. So, the odds were against me. But, my faith was bigger. That's the day I learned to say, "Your will, God, not mine." At that moment, I was ready to go home to His kingdom. But He had other plans. I underwent emergency surgery to remove the infection. It took over an hour to put my chest cavity back together, leaving me with a chest tube and a drainage bag. I stopped eating and lost 55 pounds in a month. My body started shrinking due to atrophy. I had a central line put into my artery in my right arm to receive vancomycin 3 times a day. From what I'm told, you are only supposed to take it a couple of weeks as it damages your kidneys. I took it from August until the end of October. My family was told I didn't have a chance of surviving. I was told I would never walk, smile, talk correctly and never have a normal life. I continued to shrink in my wheelchair. I went from 295 pounds the day of my surgery to 218 pounds. I'm 5 feet, 9 inches, so that was a drastic change. After a few months, God said, I am not done with you, so get up and out of that chair. Live life, because I say so. I started going to physical therapy. I was in bad shape. One arm was stuck in place due to an injury to my shoulder. My ataxia was worse than ever. I couldn't even hold a cup of water. The left side of my face was collapsed. I had slurred speech. My legs were toothpicks. I had lost so much muscle mass. God said, trust your physical therapist. I need you to be a servant. It took almost a year, but I came out of my wheelchair on July 23, 2019. My speech is no longer slurred, so I can praise God loudly. I smile big when I sing His songs. Yes, I can sing. Everything I do is because God has been with me. I still have complications from the MRSA, which will live in me forever, but God always heals when man says they can't. I am not supposed to be here. Remember, the medicine they use damages kidneys. Well, guess what? Neurology doesn't understand how my kidneys are fine and working properly. So, please listen when I say, now, that was God, as I am still here, and walking. I praise God, every day.
Now that was God.
Our next story is from Fran in Texas.
One day, I was talking to a friend. All of a sudden, I felt God urge me to call Frida, my twin sister. It was almost 9 a.m., I said, God, I would love to call Frida, but she does her lung treatments from 8 a.m. until 10 a.m. She can't talk right now. I tried to ignore the urge, but God always wins. I called Frida, and she answered in a clear voice. She said, God woke her up early to do her treatments. She literally had just sat down at her computer. She was talking to God about how worried she was because of the blizzard here in Texas. She told God, I need to hear Fran's voice. At that moment, her phone rang and it was me at 9 a.m. exactly. So glad we both obeyed and listened to the prompting of our spirits. That was God, my God.
Now that was God.
Thank you for listening. If you have a story you'd like to share, email it to nowthatwasgod@gmail.com. This YouTube channel is solely for the purpose of praising and glorifying God.